The streak is over. And fast forward to a decade later, those exact same words would continue to haunt WWE fans worldwide to this day. Hello, everyone. This is Warhawk Beyond 2040, bringing to another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. And April 6th, 2014 marks 10 years ago that history was made at WrestleMania 30 in shocking fashion when Brock Lesnar became the first wrestler to end The Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak, thus bringing the Phenom and his record to 21-1. And for today's edition, I am going to be talking about the success and failures of Brock Lesnar breaking The Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak. For most of Undertaker's legendary career, he had remained undefeated at WrestleMania for well over 2 decades and a quarter of a century. And every year going into the biggest show of the year, the question would always be asked, who's it going to be this year? Who's going to be the one to challenge The Undertaker's undefeated streak? Do they have a chance? Can they do it? And Undertaker stepped into the ring and defeated every single opponent that was put in front of him, thus amassing a gigantic record of 21 victories and 0 losses at WrestleMania. He defeated Jimmy Snuka, Jake the Snake, John Gonzalez, King Kong Bundy, Diesel, Psycho Sid, Kane twice, The Big Boss Man, Triple H 3 times, Ric Flair, Big Show, A-Train, Randy Orton, Mark Henry, Batista, Edge, Shawn Michaels twice, CM Punk, you name it. That is a Hall of Fame worthy list. So when Brock Lesnar stepped up to challenge The Undertaker, this was different because, first of all, Undertaker has never defeated Brock Lesnar in a one-on-one singles match, and they've had some legendary matches during Brock Lesnar's first run in WWE from 2002 to 2003, and at every turn and corner, Brock Lesnar has always had The Undertaker's number. So this was a very interesting WrestleMania. But at the same time, the build-up didn't really make Brock Lesnar much of a threat. It was just business as usual. Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar came out on Raw and were angry at the fact that Brock Lesnar was overlooked and he wasn't going to be competing for the title in the main event at WrestleMania. Paul Heyman kept preaching, my client wants to make history. Thanks, but no thanks. We're going. We're not interested. Undertaker came out and signed the contract and accepted Brock Lesnar's challenge by delivering a gigantic chokeslam to Brock Lesnar through the desk, thus setting the match for WrestleMania 30. And Undertaker came out in a new look, very reminiscent of his Ministry of Darkness days. And I thought to myself, this is going to be a hell of a war at WrestleMania. And, you know, as I said earlier, Undertaker has never defeated Brock Lesnar in a one-on-one singles match. Could this be the time? Could this be finally The Undertaker defeats the Beast? What's better place to pick up your first victory over a guy you've never beaten than the place you've never lost? And for the next few weeks, the build-up was okay. It wasn't epic. It was a pretty straightforward story. Brock Lesnar wants to break the streak. Undertaker wants to remain undefeated. And Paul Heyman showed a lot of respect to The Undertaker and the fact that he has never lost at WrestleMania. But he also warned The Undertaker that Brock Lesnar will be the one to end the streak. And that's not a prediction, that's a spoiler. And I thought Paul Heyman, you know, to his credit, really made this match feel like a big deal because although I was looking forward to this match, it just seemed like business as usual. You know, everyone, even myself, going in thinking, yep, Undertaker's got this one in the bag because we were never led to believe otherwise. Sure, other guys were built up as a bit of a credible threat, and you think, this guy could do it, but obviously turned out not to be the case. I think the first opponent I was truly concerned about possibly ending the streak was Randy Orton. He was the first guy I thought, you know what, if there's anyone who could end the undefeated streak, it's the Legend Killer. But that didn't happen. But he was the first guy I was really concerned about. And obviously, going forward, you're always worried about who could do it. Some came dangerously close to ending it. Shawn Michaels, Triple H, they all came really, really close. But I thought, well, with Brock Lesnar, it's going to be a physical fight. There's no doubt about it. But Undertaker's got this. He can do it. Because we were never led to believe otherwise. And after the last Raw before WrestleMania on the Go Home show, Brock Lesnar, after weeks of basically looking very weak, delivered a very violent F5 to The Undertaker. And for the first time, everyone was concerned, like, maybe he could do it, perhaps. And come the day of WrestleMania 30, Undertaker and Brock Lesnar locked up. The match itself, as an Undertaker fan, it wasn't very good. And especially as the fact that Undertaker and Brock Lesnar had some epic matches in the past during the Ruthless Aggression era. I fully expected this match to be the best match of the show. It wasn't. It was very slow, very plodding, at times very boring. As an Undertaker fan, he looked his age. He looked really old and slow, out of shape. He just didn't look like the Undertaker we all know and love. And I appreciate the fact that Undertaker is a lot older. He's not going to be as fast as he was before, but Undertaker, to his credit, always delivered a solid performance. But with this match, it wasn't one of Undertaker's best in ring performances. He just looked like an old man, no pun intended, compared to the young monster like Brock Lesnar. Because Brock Lesnar, by this match, he was like in his 30s. Undertaker was almost 50. And, to see an old man getting manhandled and dominated the way he did, like Brock Lesnar did with The Undertaker, was quite uncomfortable to watch, as a fan. And Undertaker sustained a very brutal concussion, and that's where the match went right downhill. But I thought, you know what? I didn't know going in that Undertaker sustained a concussion. I just thought maybe it was part of the story. Maybe Undertaker was selling. And I thought, yeah, Undertaker's going to win this match. No matter how much he is feeling, he'll pull this one out of the bag. He delivered a tombstone. Brock Lesnar kicked out. Undertaker kicked out two F5s. I thought, okay, Taker's still here. He's still in this thing. He's going to win. And then Undertaker went for another tombstone. Brock Lesnar reversed it and flipped him over and delivered a third F5. And I remember watching this at a friend's house with his brothers and his friends. We weren't really paying attention to this match. I mean, we were watching, but we weren't really paying too much attention to it. We thought, yeah, it's okay. Undertaker will kick out like he always does. And we heard the one, two, three, and I'll never forget that moment. The whole room just went dead silent. The crowd reaction was just unbelievable. And I remember one of my friends said, "Oh, but there's been a mistake. Undertaker's foot's on the rope, right?" I said, "No, it's not." And we couldn't believe it. The undefeated streak had been broken. For so many years we asked that question, who's going to end it? And it never happened. And the fact that it finally did happen just took everyone's breath away, including mine and everyone in the room with me. And once we saw that graphic, 21 and 1, the realization really set in. And what made it even more shocking was after Brock Lesnar picked up the victory, the music didn't play for a few minutes. And it really led you to believe, was this a mistake? Was this supposed to happen? Was this a botch up? It was no botch up. Undertaker's undefeated streak had officially been broken, and he was now 21 and 1. And wow, even just talking about it right now, it still shocks me. Why did this happen? Who made this decision? Is Undertaker retiring? Is this why the streak was broken? We would go on for months trying to get answers. Why did this happen? Who would make such a ridiculous call? Wrestlers had been offered countless opportunities to end the streak. Edge was offered the streak. He said no. Randy Orton said no. Mark Henry said no. Everybody said no to ending the streak. So what happened? The closest thing we got to an answer was on the Stone Cold podcast, and Vince McMahon was his guest. Stone Cold asked him, whose decision was it to end the streak? Vince McMahon said, it was my decision. And Stone Cold, like all of us, he said, come on, dude. You can't tell me that was The Undertaker's decision. He said, nope, it was my decision and mine alone. And his words were basically were, well, if not Brock Lesnar, then who? See, with the streak, if you're going to end the streak, fair enough, but I would have saved it for someone like Bray Wyatt, someone like Roman Reigns, especially. You know, someone who's going to have a future in WWE. No offense to Brock Lesnar, but he was already a made man. You know, he was in WWE the first time round from 2002 to 2004, and he was a monster. And Undertaker gave him countless rubs. And then he left, went to UFC, and then came back. And, you know, Brock Lesnar did suffer a couple of losses, but ultimately he was built up as a monster. But I feel with ending The Undertaker's undefeated streak, it didn't really do a lot for him. Sure, it made him look like the ultimate boss, the guy you fight, and it made him even a more bigger monster, but ultimately it didn't really do a lot for him. And plus, The Undertaker still continued to wrestle after the streak ended. So you ask yourself, what was the point in ending it in the first place? Only time I would have ended it is if you knew going in that it was Undertaker's final match, win, lose, or draw, he was retiring. That would have made a whole lot more sense. And also, another thing as well, what makes this even more sad is the match itself wasn't even good. If it was a case of it was a five-star match like WrestleMania 25 against Shawn Michaels and the streak ended, yeah, you will be sad that the streak ended, but you'll look at it and say, yeah, I'm bummed that the streak ended, but look at the match though. The match was fantastic. Brock Lesnar versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 30 was not even good. It was terrible. I mean, props to Brock Lesnar for taking care of The Undertaker after he sustained a horrible concussion. You know, I can't imagine how he must have been feeling, but he played safe. He kept The Undertaker safe, and they got through it. Undertaker, even though he didn't know what day it was, he soldiered on like the man he is, and the rest is history. And, you know, what makes Undertaker so much more likable, not just as a wrestler, but as a person, he didn't protest. You know, you hear stories all the time about Hulk Hogan refusing to put someone over, Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold, even Triple H to a point. You know, they refuse to do jobs to certain guys. Undertaker, Vince presented to him, I want you to lose tonight to Brock Lesnar. I want you to give up the streak. Undertaker, being a team player, the professional that he is, he said, okay, if that's what you want to do, we'll do it. Are you sure this is what you want to do? Vince, of course, said, yep, I'm absolutely sure. If not Brock Lesnar, then who? And Undertaker looked at it like as, okay, this is the guy we'll go with. This is it. This is what we'll do. And that was it. He never questioned it. And that's what makes The Undertaker so more likable. Now, obviously, we've heard interviews years later. He didn't want the streak to end. He didn't feel Brock Lesnar needed the rub. He said that someone like Roman Reigns should have been the one to end the streak. I'm fully in agreement with that. It should have been someone like Roman Reigns or even Bray Wyatt. And I feel that since the streaks ended, WrestleMania has lost quite a bit of its magic. I mean, yeah, it's still exciting, but it's not as exciting as it used to be because the main reason I always watched WrestleMania for many years was Undertaker's match, his WrestleMania match. Who's going to be your opponent? What kind of match is it going to be? And, you know, it's such a shame that you know, his streak ended. And it wasn't the fact that it ended, it was the way it was ended. It was just so depressing and so bad. I mean, it was a shocking moment, but imagine how more shocking it would have been if the match was a 5-star classic. But, I still remember that guy in the front row, his eyes bulging out through his glasses. That was us in the room. It was just crazy, crazy, crazy time. But ultimately, in the long run, this didn't do anyone any favours. I still don't understand the point in ending it, even to this day as I'm talking. What was the point in ending the streak? Nobody got anything out of this. Yes, Brock Lesnar, as I said earlier, came out of it a bigger monster. He went on a massive tear, but he still would have been a monster, win, lose, or draw. So I just didn't really see the point. But I suppose in hindsight, if you look at it, if there's anyone who's believable enough to break the streak, then I guess it is Brock Lesnar. Because would you like to be the one to go up to him and say, you were wrong for ending it? Not me. So I suppose in that respect, it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, so sad. Not even a good match either. So, in terms of the success and failures of Brock Lesnar ending the Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak, on one side it was successful because it made Brock Lesnar a monster, an even bigger one afterwards. And we also got to hear Paul Heyman run his mouth about it for months on end. But ultimately, I'd say it was a complete failure. It served no purpose whatsoever. It didn't make anyone into a new star. Undertaker still continued to wrestle for years after at WrestleMania. It just didn't see any point. It was just pointless, really. As much as I love Brock Lesnar, as much as I love The Undertaker, nobody came out of this match looking better. No one got a thing out of this. I get the impression this was done for shock value more than anything. I think if someone like Roman Reigns ended the streak, he could have been the tribal chief even years earlier. Or even someone like John Cena, he could have come out of it a big hill if they were willing to go and pull the trigger for him. Bray Wyatt could have been a passing of the torch. Bray Wyatt ends the streak and he becomes the new phenom. They could have done something like that, but yeah, Brock Lesnar was already a made man, and yeah, this was ultimately a failure. But hey ho, it is what it is, and hard to believe that was 10 years ago already. Crazy. Still remember it like it was yesterday. Unbelievable. And I still remember Undertaker slowly getting up. He kind of had this strange look on his face. He looked almost sad, you know, and everyone gave him a standing ovation, and deservedly so. And I thought maybe this is his retirement match. The way it was perceived, the way the commentators were treating it, the way the audience was reacting. I thought maybe this is the Undertaker's final match. And as he walked through the curtain, we learned later on that he collapsed and was rushed to hospital because he sustained a horrible concussion in the ring. And truly a very dark and sad moment. I mean, it's bad enough to have the streak end, but to actually see the Undertaker's physically fall apart before our very eyes. It's just really heartbreaking, to see this legend we've grown up seeing before our very eyes. He's just a man, he's a human being. And it was truly heartbreaking. But the rest is history. Undertaker came back the following year and redeemed himself and put on a much better in-ring performance at WrestleMania 31 against Bray Wyatt in a much far more solid match than the year before. But unfortunately, didn't bring the streak back. But at least The Undertaker got to compete for a few more years and eventually got to retire on his own terms at WrestleMania 36 against AJ Styles. But still bummed out at the fact that the streak ended, and more upset about the way the streak ended. And no one to this day has really given a logical answer as to why this decision was made. And in my honest opinion, this was probably the worst decision ever made in the history of wrestling. It just made no sense. And, It was stupid, quite frankly. Absolutely stupid. Didn't do anything for anyone, and I don't think it achieved anything, in my opinion. But that's just me. I think what should have happened was Undertaker should have remained undefeated, get inducted into the Hall of Fame, and go down in history as the only wrestler to have never lost at WrestleMania. I think that would have been even better for his legacy. He still has an amazing legacy. No one can take that away from him. But just imagine being known as the only person to never lost at WrestleMania. I think that would have been even more special. But Undertaker has nothing to be ashamed of. 21 victories at the biggest show of the year. No one will ever replicate that, and no one can take that away from him. And that will always remain a huge part of his legacy. And he turned WrestleMania into a must see pay per view. And he put on some excellent matches at the biggest show of the year. So, mega props to The Undertaker, and thank you so much for all of the great memories you gave us at the biggest show of the year. So that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What was your reaction to Brock Lesnar ending The Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak? Were you shocked? What did you thought of the match? Did you think the match was good? Do you think Brock Lesnar was the right guy to end the streak? If not him, who do you think it should have been? Do you think it should have been someone like John Cena, Bray Wyatt, or Roman Reigns, or someone completely unknown? Or would you have preferred if The Undertaker retired and remained undefeated at WrestleMania? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. So until then, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.